and ban here. EDG now over to the blue side. Gonna ban away the Aatrox, gonna ban away the Pantheon. They just hate Gore Drinker is what's going on here. EDG, any Gore Drinker champion, it's gone.
Who doesn't? Who wants to see Gore Drinker in the game? Every time it's like, all right, cool, we can kill him, focus, and he's full health, and we're screwed. Like, that has been my comms in quite a few of these Gore Drinker games.
And you've got a Morello there, you've got an Executioner's Calling, and then you make sure that you put the healing reduction, and then they only get to full health. And you're like, oh, yeah, fantastic. Thanks for that. Yeah. I'm so glad. Anyway, Ornn's going to be banned away as well. OMG still sticking to the strategy of try and just remove all of the mid laners from the game. It's going to be Syndra and Akali so far.
And it means now, looking at EDG side, there's a lot of those AD carries that they banned in the last game open. Like the Samiras that they'd taken off the board, the Kaisas they'd taken off the board. So I'm curious to see what OMG decide to go with here. Are they going to continue off last game strategy of ban the Zoe here and ban away every mid lane champion from EDG, or if they want to go for something else, and it looks like it will be the Olaf taken off the board. I imagine here EDG are going to pick up an AD carry. I'd like personally the Samira. I think Samira does well in this current meta, but they may want to go back towards something like the Kaisa instead.
I will say as well though, Samira seems like if you first pick it, there does seem to be options, right? We saw that in the first series of the day when top esports were first picking Samira. The Victor was a great option in the mid lane. You can just silence every time she tries to go for the ult, and also just anything that can nullify the insane aggression in that bottom side. But the Samira is the first pick regardless. We see an Alistair, and we finally see our first Taliyah of the day here for Aki.
And I'm excited for Aki because not only is it again that kind of farming style, but lends itself towards going aggressive into these solo lanes. If you've got, or into the side lanes, if you've got a top laner or even a support like this Alistair who can set up for those easy seismic shoves, Taliyah's damage goes through the roof, and you can burst out a lot of low health, or at least squishy members on EDG side.
There's plenty of opportunity to one-shot people on Taliyah, especially those that like to dash. Things like Samira, for example. You dash on that Unraveled Earth, you one-shot yourself. So it's not worth it.
We saw it in All-Star. We saw it in All-Star where it was the Taliyah answer to the Samira. I think it was Jackie Love that actually brought it out, where it's just like, you want to try and move? Okay, here's an unravel, or here's the E down. You're not going anywhere. There's just so much damage that comes through off of just you trying to escape.
Yeah, it's so difficult to play against. Scout gonna lock in the Orianna once again. Looked phenomenal on it in game number 1, so not too surprised to see him go for that one again. And this time, Eric goes with the Kai'Sa to try and answer the Samira. This is the same matchup between AD carries that we saw in both games between Top Esports and Suning, and it was the Kai'Sa coming out on top, but whether that's a direct matchup difference is a different conversation.
Yeah, I think like Kai'Sa does have initial push pressure in that, but when you start to get the Immortal Shield Bones, that coming through from the Samira, that's where Samira does take over the lane, even after kind of the Noon Quiver of Vamp Scepter, she does very well. But we'll have to see how this plays out, because of course the Alistair there does make it a little bit more difficult for this Samira to go overly aggressive. I'm curious to see what they pair with this Samira as well. I mean, Alistair and Leona have been the go-tos, but you can still go towards stuff like the Thresh or the Nautilus if you really want to.
Alright, well, bans coming on through. Yone has been taken off of the board. It's the Gragas and Leona banned by OMG, is trying to remove some of the hard engage that was available for EDG last time around. And I am curious what EDG are going to bring towards that top side now that both Aatrox is taken off the board, Ornn's taken off the board, the Gragas that they played last game is removed as well. Lucian now banned away from wounding.
Yeah, that was my big worry here, at least on the ADG side, is that you'd end up giving the Lucian over a very strong mid lane matchup, and you got something that can then play towards the likes of Aki in the jungle matchup, because Hecarim does pretty well against the Taliyah, where it's very difficult to predict where the Hecarim's going to be thanks to that move speed, so getting an easy seismic shove is off the table. However, you're looking towards Renekton. Welcome to the LPL, ladies and gentlemen. In case you haven't been here, enjoy your stay. Renekton, a fan favorite over here. Not not in that 5th pick though, but certainly still the go-to in a lot of situations, and he's very strong. Especially when you look towards again like the likes of Gore Drinkers. There's been like Stryber. There's been a lot of flexibility in Renekton's build path, but I do expect him to still go towards that Gore Drinker.
Yeah. Well, we had a 6% fan vote for OMG in game 1. That's now decreased to a 4% fan vote for OMG in game number 2. It's not getting much better, and I've got to say, I don't blame anyone that's voted in that for voting for EDG, because game 1 was not close. It's going to be Volibear locked in here. I'm going to assume that that's going up towards Flandre in the top side, and Mako goes for the Maokai. This is a big bruiser squad that EDG have locked in.
Yeah, and again, you've kind of got a mixed bag, I'd say, to a certain extent, where you do have a very heavy, like, get in on top of everyone's style. Like, the Hecarim, the Samira, the Volibear all want to be diving in on top of the opponents. But then you've got kind of the Maokai that can look to follow up, or at least provide some disengage if necessary, if EDG do get caught out. But overall, very dive-heavy composition from EDG, where they are looking to go in again, and keep going in every opportunity that they get. On OMG side, much more about flanking, much more about controlling space, where you want New to be coming in to see if you can get on towards the likes of the Orianna on a flank position, but certainly keeping a very strong front line in the Alistar, in this Galio, and buying space for both Aki and Eric in these fights. And if the opportunity arises, Eric can play aggressive off of like the flanks that we were talking about from New, or if the Galio can get in aggressively.
Yeah, one of the big questions for me is how aggressively EDG are going to play this composition, because I feel like, especially once one item comes in, they have a lot of power to just brawl. I want to see them going in and just try to get into melee range, try to force the plays here, especially with that Talia that can really ruin things if you let her get ahead. You've got to stop that from happening. You've got to try and shut her down a little bit before she gets too strong, I think is the answer. But I could be wrong. I'm just the play-by-play here. But I'm hoping at least that we get a bit of a brawl between these two games, because we've had some pretty slow games today, Dagda. I want to see one that's a little bit more action-packed.
Yeah. I'm not certain how aggressive this is going to be, especially when I look towards like EDG's side. I mean, JJ wants to try and farm up a little bit. Same when you look at Scout, he's more looking to farm in towards that later stage where he's got the 2 items. Maybe you can look towards some aggressive plays on the bottom side, but at least from the way I've seen this matchup between the Alistar and the Maokai go, it seems to be much more about Maokai being able to control brushes with the soft lanes, which makes it very difficult for Alistar to find those aggressive engages, specifically if he's running the likes of the Hex Flash. So overall, I think this is more about, hey, look, yeah, 1 item is nice when we get a bunch of these mythics, but certain EDG, the 2-item spike is where they're looking to play around. So we're pushing that 23 minute mark before we really start to see any aggro.
Well, we've got our animated Kentucky Fried chart here on the bottom side of your screen. You can see the Colonel is souped up and he's ready to go for 2021. He is favoring OMG. I'm guessing he didn't watch game 1. That's the only logical conclusion, honestly, to predicting OMG. Obviously, he's doing it only on picks and things like that, but
yeah,
I am
he
curious
turns
to
off
see
the
how
names plays.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how this Maokai support is going to do. Now it's not against the Samira, it's with the Samira. So I feel like it's got more opportunity to succeed, as we do have an invade here from OMG. Level 1, as they try and brute force their way into the bottom side. And that's a lot of respect coming out from EDG. Immediately, JJ just goes, all right, off to the top side I go. I'm not that bothered. Didn't want red buff anyway.
The thing is, though, New had started to wander down in case there was any shenanigans at that fight, so he's going to be late to lane, which means that we can actually see JJ potentially split the map here and just play towards the top side. Now, this does mean that from Viper and Mako's point of view, they've got to play this early game a little bit less aggressive. But when you're a Maokai, level 3 is really where you're going to be looking before you want to go aggressive with this Samira, so it's not like you're losing out overly much in this early game. It just means you got to take a little bit of a back foot on the aggression from the get-go.
I am really curious how this bottom lane goes. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot about the bot lane meta watching the bot lane duos duke it out over the next few days, because we have so many of these aggressive melee supports that are coming in. Even if it's not complete all-ins, the trades are very aggressive trades that you'll see between like your Leonas, your Alistars, even things like the Maokai. So I am curious on how this one goes now that the Maokai is on the side of the Samira. Obviously, Samira does incredibly well. Aki's moved into the mid lane, though. Scout could be in trouble here. The Taunt flashed away from, but hey, they got a flash. They're happy with that one.
And this is now where Scout's going to have to play very, very safe. Orianna without her flash is very vulnerable. And he hasn't opted in towards cleanse in this mid lane either. So expect a repeat gank where Woomy just flashes in on top of Scout and takes that back. And even look at where the wave is positioned. Woomy's in a pretty alright spot to just hold that where it is.
This is so smart from Aki. He could go and just take his top quadrant that you would expect. Here we go, though. Enough about the jungle, because Mako's in trouble. One more tick, and it's going to be a kill here as Cole grabs that one with the ignite. Now, Viper's jumped way too deep. JJ's here to back him up, though, and Eric's the one in trouble. Teleport coming out as well as a flash, and it looks like EDG are forced away. Nice flash from Viper at the last second.
Unfortunate for Viper, actually cancelled an auto there, so wasn't able to quite get the kill onto Cold. But a huge amount invested on both sides there. But it is OMG who get the first kill. And Eric and Cold coming out on top in what was a well, not a matchup, but certainly a lane where they struggled in game number 1.
So far, so good for the side of OMG, and a really, really nice answer to what was going on. You could see JJ was trying to get into he was trying to invade the bottom side. Aki moves over to the bottom side instead of taking the top quadrants so that they can match, and then shenanigans happen on the bottom side. Aki's there to answer, so really nicely done.
And this is what I was talking about for that bot lane play, is that the level 2 is much stronger from Alistair. You had started with the saplings for Mako, so he's not quite able to provide the same amount of CC and play in this aggressive stance. But, however, Viper, you can see there, not quite able to finish off Cold. JJ comes down, but instantly they got to back off because you've got Woomin coming down. He has flash, and there's still a huge amount of damage between Eric and even a revisiting Cold that could turn that around. So nice job from OMG to shut down the follow-up. But again, Aki, he's out and trying to get aggressive here.
So Aki is on the top side, but Flandre, I think, realizing something's up, he's going to go all the way back to his tower to recall here. And we're just going to have a bit of a reset from both of our junglers here. They're going to head back to base, grab some items for themselves, and then get back out onto the map. First Drake is on the map, and it is going to be a Mountain Drake to start us off here, Doctor.
Yeah, I don't see much pressure coming in, at least for a while, for either side, honestly, towards this dragon. I think unless Eric and Cold can get a massive push off on the bot side, and maybe they can turn it into it, but honestly, I think you're better off on OMG's side trying to continue this pressure through the lanes. Like, I want to see Woomin flashing in on top of Scout to set up a kill there with Aki. I want to continue to see, with all summoners burnt on the bottom side, OMG trying to make that work. Like, Aki has a lot of opportunities now to solidify this lead and start to snowball.
And I do want to talk about some of the CS leads that we've got going on as well, because you're mentioning Aki trying to snowball. Look at the mid lane right now. Scout 20 CS up for him, or 10 CS up for himself, because Wimming's just managed to get onto the wave there. But there was a similar lead in the bottom side as well, as Eric managed to shove that in, managed to close that gap. The dragon is going to go down. It's OMG to take it, so really, really good start to things for them. Feeling a lot better, although I think game 1 they actually got the first Drake and the first kill as well.
Yeah, and it never ended well. The thing here is, well, like looking back at your mid lane point is, don't forget it was Woomin who TP'd down, which meant he lost a lot of that CS, and that's where we're seeing a big amount of that lead come from for Scout. So overall, again, EDG, they don't have to worry too much about, you know, these early dragons or how, like, if a kill or two is going across the OMG, because they fully outscale. They're the composition that can wait until 2 items and come online and kill everyone. But if they can pick up a kill on Nu, they'll take it.
Yeah, they're certainly quite happy to go for that one. Pushes him back into the fray, and there's no way out here for Nu. He'd already flashed. And maybe should have just accepted that he was going to go down here instead of going for the flash there. Nicely done. Flandre to grab the kill and 2 assists on the team as well. So very nice little pickup for the side of EDG.
And of course, as you said, that assist going across the Scout was pretty impactful because he had roamed the entire way up. If he hadn't got involved in that kill, might have missed out on quite a bit. As you can see, that wave was shoved in underneath tower. But this does open up the opportunity for Woomin. Aki's in the area as well. 4-man bot is on the cards.
Here we go. TP, though, comes out immediately from Scout, as Viper could be in trouble, but they go straight on towards his teammate. Mako is removed from the play. In goes the Galio, double taunt, and this is beautiful from OMG. What a dive coming out from the squad.
So well played, and the correct call from OMG. When you see that TP coming in, A lot of people start to get antsy. OMG realized it's the Orianna coming in. She's not going to be able to turn this around. It's not like she provides a heap of CC and a bunch of damage. Like, we are still fine to go for this play. They get the double kill and the teleport out from Scout with nothing lost in return.
Really nicely done. This is a cleaner OMG than what we saw in game number 1. Game number 1, it felt like they weren't really sure what to do, and they were a little bit all over the place. Here in game 2, it does feel like they've sort of got themselves together a little bit and feeling confident with these kinds of plays.
And it's an easier composition to execute as well. Like, they can still threaten these dragons. They can go towards these more aggressive plays. So, at least in that respect, the gripes that we had in game 1 won't be rearing their head this time. The only thing is they need to keep up this tempo. Because as we said, it's EDG will start to run ahead. But this is what OMG need to do. Go for these aggressive plays onto the bot lane while they've got the advantage there. And use the fact that, hey, this Orianna can't do too much right now. Viper hasn't got towards that Immortal Shield bow. Pyro Mandate is not completed for Mako. This is a weak bot lane that we can look to punish.
And punish they have so far. And I have to say, the Maokai support, we've seen it twice now, and it has not looked good in either game.
I'm surprised to see it come out so often. Like, I wasn't expecting it. I thought we'd see, like, Thresh, Leonas, even Sets before we saw something like a Maokai. They picked it twice now into the Alistar, and it hasn't really been up my alley either.
Yeah. And the first time I thought it was like, okay, Samira, she can block everything he does. Fair enough, it didn't work out. This time, there isn't that same situation going on, but it still just doesn't feel like it's offering very much to the fights.
Yeah, it seems to be a case of like, hey, look, Alistar is going to go for this engage, right? So, hey, you've got the Maokai that can try and stop the initial W with his own Q. You've got ways to move around it. Like, you can counter the Pulverize if you time it correctly with Maokai on the Twisted Advance. And in these big team fights, Alistar goes in, well, Maokai Ultimate goes out. But the problem is, it's not really working out for them. The level 2 is so much stronger, as we talked about for Alistar, and OMG did a really good job of using that spike, getting on towards Mako, because although Maokai is tanky when he builds a lot of items and gets the Aftershock proc, at level 2, when he's only got one way of doing it, it doesn't matter. Oh, Cold!
Look at that. That is just a gorgeous combo. Straight onto Scout. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that one as Orianna. He actually flashed kind of after the play was already done.
It was super nice coming through from Code. Like, he predicted that Scout was going to flash it. He headbutts, holds onto the Pulverize, and then flashes to follow the flash from Scout to get the Pulverize. That is really, really smart from Code.
I want to see the replay now, because I missed the intricacies of that one. I'm excited to rewatch it.
Maybe I've now messed this up and I've put myself in a hole, but at least that was what it looked like. The resolution is a little bit funky on our side. But yeah, so when it comes in here, so watch, he goes for the headbutt, waits, and follows the flash from Scout. Really good job from Cold, and that's something that a lot of Alistars will try and do, but it's so difficult to try and predict, because there's a couple of different combos you can go for. You can either commit to the headbutt and then flash to follow when they're being like pushed away from you, or in this case, Code just reads it perfectly, knows the Scout is going to be fast enough from the trigger finger, and just follows the flash safely towards the tower.
And I mean, Code, get up and take a bow. Also, Dagda, our resident Alistar expert, giving us the download on all the different combos that are available. And now Dragon's on the cards for OMG off the back of that pick, off the back of the control that they have in this map. There's also a Rift Herald that was taken by Aki, so they're really starting to snowball for themselves. That's going to be, what, almost a 2,000 gold lead, 1.5 in favor of OMG. They've got 2 Drakes themselves. They'll be able to extend the gold lead with this Rift Herald as well. It's all looking pretty good right now.
And the big thing here is that, like, this is, apart from, like, I suppose, like, the Viper Mako mistake happened at level 2 and they got the kill, but this has been OMG proactively punishing that over and over again. They've got Viper and Mako by the scruff of their neck, they put them into the dirt by going for this 4-man dive, and now they've used that pressure that they got on bot side to open up Cold into the rest of the map, now using it to go and pressure onto Scout. And this is really strong play from OMG and not what we saw from them last split. They weren't this proactive, and specifically Cold wasn't this proactive in the early stages.
Except sometimes when we played Blitzcrank. Then he was.
Yeah,
I really like Cold's Blitzcrank. Yeah. Specifically his Blitzcrank, I've always been quite impressed by. Can't wait until he brings it out again. Cold. No, I'm just in case you're watching right now.
Give a shout,
probably,
yeah.
I would think he's probably not since he's playing, but
If he is,
just in case.
there's probably a lot more issues going on if he is actually listening right now. You know, I think that might be against a couple of rules that we have going on here.
We're going to see a Weibo post later that's OMG disqualified cold watching English stream. Maybe not. Either way, we are going to see Eric going with the Kraken Slayer on the Kai'Sa. This is something we talked about earlier, where we saw the Gale Force coming out instead of the Kraken Slayer. This has been the more typical build that we've seen, generally speaking. Is Cold actually going to go under the...
What? Where did he go? They've pulled out a magic trick. Mako has disappeared.
Put a tree back into the ground. This is the way that one worked rather than pulling the rabbit out of the hat. And this is what like the big issue that I have with a Maokai support is he's not tanky. Like, Imperial Mandate does not give you tank stats, and you're heavily reliant on just the aftershock to keep you alive. And in that situation where you're just getting bombarded with CC, you can't do anything.
This is like Clash of the Titans in the top lane.
Yeah.
Flandre wins the 1v1. Both of them go into Mega Mode. I felt like I was watching an episode of Godzilla.
But I don't know why Nu's fighting. Like, Flandre, the Volibear wins this matchup. Like, when you get Gore Drinker, yeah, it helps out, and you can go a little bit evener in the trades. But right now, especially when you've got the Grievous Wounds picked up by the Volibear, you're not winning that.
It felt like he was going to win it to start with, but once the shield comes through, as well as the damage and the kind of the buffs that Flandre gets from his ultimate, it becomes incredibly difficult in the sustained fight. So, unfortunate one for Nu there. Overestimated what he could do in the 1v1. And now you can see that this gold lead is still very much in favor of OMG. They're about 2,500 gold ahead right now. And 500 of that is going to come from these tower plates that are all exclusively in that bottom lane.
And I want to go just touching briefly on that top lane play. Like, Nu, you can maybe trade when, as I said, when you get Gore Drinker, and you try and play around the shield where you use the root or the Ruthless Predator from Renekton to get rid of the shield. But if you're not playing around that, like, Volibear is going to win every single time. Like, Nu not only went for a very weird play, but also the fact that he misplayed on the play as well, like, just is so strange.
Alright, OMG grouping up here. Herald not going to be up right now. Maybe looking to go for a dive on the top side. Honestly, they're positioning very aggressively as Mecha could be out of position. But Nu in a 2 versus 1 right here. He's underneath the tower though, and he's pretty tanky, so he should be alright with that one. And the minion wave arrives, so Flandre is just going to have to settle for a bit of CS. Should be able to push Nu off of the tower now, though. Should be able to grab that tower for himself. It will be traded in the top side as OMG get pressure here and push on in towards the tier 1.
I actually see this as a win for OMG. With JJ shown on bot side, OMG can commit to getting this tier 2, or sorry, the tier 1 in the top lane. Even though you're trading, the gold is going on to the people that you wanted to on OMG side. You're getting it onto this Taliyah, you're getting it onto the Kai'Sa. Whereas Flandre, who's gone full tank Volibear, it don't really matter if he gets a little bit of extra gold. Like, realistically, I want to see JJ starting to play more so around Viper and Mako, because Viper specifically has been put pretty heavily on the back foot here. Has got his Immortal Shield Bow, but he's a long way from Collector, and he's not going to be hitting the same 2-item spike relative to the rest of the team. And if that's what you're playing for here as EDG, like, you want to make sure that Viper is at least relevant so you can fight when we're looking at this third dragon, which is up now in just a few moments, or even the soul potentially for OMG.
And I think that Collector is kind of underrated. Ever since they nerfed it a bit, I think people have kind of misunderstood quite how powerful of an item it still is. Like, especially on champions like Samira and Misfortune, where you're hitting everybody anyway. If you just have to tick them to just a little bit lower health, and you'll be able to get the execute. So it's incredibly, incredibly strong. That second item is a massive, massive spike for Viper. Speaking of Viper, he managed to grab a top tier 1, and it was in trade for the 3rd Drake now for OMG. Aki grabbing that one. That's sole point for OMG, and suddenly EDG can't just play as slow as they want.
And this is the thing as well, when we look at EDG's comp, they're pretty burst orientated. Like, it is a go in with JJ, the onslaught of shadows, shockwave, get the smear up. Like, this is what they want to do. If you've got an Ocean Soul that comes in, and maybe it's OMG now surviving that little bit longer, getting more damage off, starting to heal up in these fights, it becomes a lot more difficult for EDG to actually play the style that they want to.
OMG grouping up to try and fight for this Rift Herald here. EDG's here as well. We could have a 5v5 on our hands here, Dagda, as Cold has to use his ult to survive the shockwave. Flandre forced out, flashes over the wall, and it is going to defuse itself. Just testing the waters here from either team, neither really committing to the fight, but OMG, ultimately, they used less, and that means they can move up towards the Herald.
It looks like they are fully confident that they can go towards this. They still have New on this bot side, could TP in, but I don't know. It looks like they're not convinced here.
I guess Cold already used his ult, right? The Alistar ult's quite big, but I figured with Flandre and Scout both having used their ults, I figured maybe that was an opportunity, but I guess they're deciding just to push into the mid lane instead, try and grab the tower.
I would have preferred to see them go for that fight. Like, you're definitely, as we said, like the composition that spikes off of one item is OMG's side. You got the Kraken Slayer, you got the Rocket Belt for Woomin. This is where you want to fight and like power home through that mid spike that you have. But that's not what they're doing here. Instead, they're giving over control to EDG, not looking for fights they can try and go for. And yeah, I mean, Alistar ultimate is important, but the flash in, if you can get a flash into a headbutt pulverize, that's more and is going to do a lot more for setting up the team, particularly with Woomin, who can follow up with that ultimate as well.
Scouts arrived in the mid lane. We'll be able to catch that wave. And honestly, I don't think we're going to see anything for the next couple of minutes, Dagda, because that Drake is coming up in 2 minutes and 41 seconds. And that Drake is going to be everything right here. OMG, if they can get an Ocean Soul, it's going to be incredibly difficult for EDG to do anything for the rest of the game. Because bear in mind, they won a team fight. They won a scrap. It's a lot harder to do that against a team that just won't die. On the opposite side, though, EDG are getting towards the point where actually they can go for these team fights against OMG.
And at the moment, OMG are doing a good job of getting their waves in order so they can look for that aggressive play over towards Dragon. Already, Woomin pushed to top side. You got New, who's resting on bot side.
Oh, Scout's trying to get a 1v1 with New right here. A lot of damage done onto the Renekton. He flashes forwards, though, and that is the power of the Croc. Forces the flash out from Scout, and Scout suddenly thinking about some of his life decisions.
That was a little bit close. Flash for flash. New comes out on top. Both have TP. I'd argue that the Orianna not having Shockwave for this fight is probably more impactful than the Renekton not having that ultimate, but they're pretty close in parity. However, it looks like OMG are on bar.
Oh, they've managed to find JJ, but he gets knocked out to safety. JJ, I think that was Onslaught of Shadows over the wall there to get himself out. That would have been such a big... That would have been absolutely huge for OMG. They now have 3 ults on cooldown, though.
It is a lot invested, though. And I mean, look, it's a minute until Dragon, so you will get these ultimates back up from both Scout and for New. However, the bigger thing here is that flash from Cold could have been absolutely monumental. If you're looking for a flanking opportunity to get onto Scout and Viper and set up Eric, New, Aki for that seismic shove, that was your play. But now, not having that flash makes it a lot more difficult. You have to try and wind up with the Hex Flash and give more opportunity for EDG to respond.
Well, EDG now pushing out that mid lane and trying to get into the river. Scout is actually recalling. He's going to have his teleport available. He needs to get back ASAP because we've got 20 seconds on this Ocean Drake. And just to reset in case anyone's just joining in.
Oh, no.
This is Ocean Soul for OMG if they can get it. Herald comes down in the mid lane just to try and get some pressure. Try and get the position here for EDG on the Dragon.
So EDG know where the cow is. It's actually, he's just been spotted.
Oh no, Cold. He's completely alone. In comes the Galio to back him up. They're on Flandre, who is totally invincible. They don't have any damage. And EDG starting to fight off strong. Can they turn it into more, though? Because Scout has kept 2 people out of the fight for so damn long. Eric is going to be able to answer. It's 1-for-1, tank for tank here. But EDG, with much stronger health bars right now, will start the Drake.
So the Cold tried to go for the full wraparound play where he walked down past Krugs in that bottom lane. However, it meant that he got spotted by a ward that was just about to die in that brush just beside bot lane. So he got spotted out. So EDG knew the whole time where Cold was. And it meant that they tracked him back up, Scout waiting perfectly for him to enter that brush. And EDG can turn. They get a dragon for themselves in Cold. I think you should back away from this one. It's done. It's over. Go home, buddy. Go home.
Yeah, this is not the, especially on that much HP, this is not the play anymore. Fantastic stuff from EDG to keep themselves in the game, because bear in mind, they were 2,000, or they are currently 2,000 gold down. If they'd lost that Drake, I think this one would have been just about done and dusted, but fantastic stuff, and EDG keep themselves in the game.
So Cold got spotted out by Ward on that bot side, which meant that EDG knew he's here the whole time. They just collapse in on top of him. You've got everyone on OMG trying to see if they can keep him safe, and it means EDG are able to find the fight that they want because you don't have these easy flank opportunities for New, who's taken low thanks to Scout. You've got an easy setup coming through from Viper as well because he knows exactly where everyone is. It's just such a nice fight for EDG.
So now EDG, it feels like a little bit more in control of their own destiny now. The early game, I feel like we've been just watching them waiting for the ability to fight back, waiting to be able to actually do anything in this game. And that fight feels like maybe it was the turning point. One huge caveat to that, though, is Eric right now. Eric, I said, we were coming into this series saying, look, keep your eyes on the AD carries. Each of them has something to prove here. Game number 1, it was all about Viper. Game number 2 right now, Eric has his 3 items on his Kai'Sa. He is going to be terrifying in this next fight if he's left to his own devices. So keep a lookout for when he uses that killer instinct to try and assassinate someone.
Still though, OMG playing this a little bit slower. They have New off in the side lane now. It will need to be answered by Flandre, who's starting to teeter down towards there. But OMG do have control of this area, and when you're pulling Flandre off towards this bot side, it means there's not really anyone on EDG who can face check in towards this Baron, which is why OMG feel confident to start.
Well, they're just going to go for it right here. 6,000 remaining as JJ is going to walk in. They now know that this is going on, and I think OMG have to pull away. Teleport being channeled. It's just JJ absolutely destroyed by the entire squad of OMG. He's managed to stop the Baron attempt at very least, but I feel like they could maybe just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, I mean, they can just go back. However, there was quite a bit used, but honestly, they're all going to be back up, and now Flandre versus New.
Let's see, Scout is here, still Viper's alive as well. Bear in mind these carries have a lot of damage and a lot of AoE damage specifically. Viper just blocked Talia wall. This champion is ridiculous. In they go anyway. New onto the backline. Viper still surviving for now, and he gets the first kill of the fight. In goes Eric, but he can't assassinate the enemy. He carries Shockwave onto Eric. He still survives. 1 HP. 1 auto does the trick, and Scout walks away with his life. Cold now is alone in the backline. Did manage to finish off Viper, I believe, but he's not going to be able to get away with his life as Mako looking to chase him down. He gets the other one. Cold, the Moo Cow King, takes another kill.
He'll take down Scout, but the damage was done. Despite the fact that it was a 4 versus 5, they did such a good job on EDG's side to kite back Scout with that shockwave, shutting down Eric, getting rid of what was the last dribble of damage for OMG. Because when you look at Aki's mana bar, he's got nothing left in the tank. Now, EDG get the opportunity to clear out this Baron area, get some control back. And that's really what was an issue here, was JJ's not tanky enough to face check in towards Baron. Mako isn't either. He's gone pretty much this full AP build. So when someone needs to go and poke their nose in to see if OMG have started Baron, it's JJ who pays the price.
Yep, JJ gets caught out and taken down, but luckily for him, the rest of his squad doing really, really well. And we said we've got to keep our eyes on Eric in the fight. Keep your eyes on when he's going to Killer Instinct. He tried to go in and finish off Viper, but Viper walked away with his life. And when Eric was then left out to dry, couldn't finish the kill, got taken down by Scout instead. Luckily, Cold was there to finish Viper off, as apparently he's an assassin, but ultimately EDG win out.
We come back to Dragon though, bunch. 20 seconds now. Ocean Soul for OMG. EDG need to do everything to keep OMG out of River, because if it ends up being towards a 50-50 smite, that's way too risky for EDG. They need to find the fight before that Dragon gets taken down.
EDG, the top half of this one, as Cold and New are going on an adventure together. They've got a ward in the back of the pit. They're going for a flank.
They've managed to sneak over. Yeah, hopped over the wall with the Hex Flash. Nice ward there from Viper though, so they will be able to spot them out on this flank opportunity.
There we go. They're just going to be tanking the Drake for now. The wall comes out. I mean, they've stopped him doing Drake. They can't really... I wasn't sure if they were going to try and burst it. Look at Eric's health, by the way. That is exclusively from Mako. Just throwing saplings into brushes. That is the... It's basically Teemo in support is what Maokai's support is right now. It's so annoying.
I want to keep an eye on the waves, though, because this whole time, EDG have a massive wave dying to that top lane turret.
Certainly do. They're moving in onto the Drake here. Aki stepping on forwards. Cold is on the flank and he wants to try and make this play happen, but Viper zipped over to the backside of the fight. In comes Galio as well, as JJ was the first casualty here. Scout is alone and Eric wants the 1v1. Flashes the shockwave. Beautifully done by Eric, and OMG are looking to claim this one. Viper's ult is denied, and now the rest of EDG are taken apart. This is Soul for OMG.
It's going to be Soul and potentially Baron as well. They can get both here, as actually mixed calls across the board. No one really seems sure as to what they're going to do, but either way, OMG played that beautifully. Cold once again finding that perfect flank opportunity, gets in onto JJ, and with that jungler dead, there's no opportunity for the dragon to be stolen, and EDG lose the fight.
Beautiful stuff here from OMG, and kind of against all odds as well, because especially after game number 1, I had pretty much zero expectations of OMG coming into game number 2. Eric especially looking fantastic. Aki as well, the most hyped up player on this roster coming in and living up to that on this Talia pick. Now with a Baron, OMG looking poised to finish this one off with a 6,000 gold lead.
I've been really impressed with the way OMG have found these fights, and Cold specifically, like, getting in there onto JJ was not an easy task. You can see even at the very beginning, Viper is like pieced out. He's like flashed straight away. He doesn't trust where Cold is going to go. But still, separating out the fight is all that they need to do. Allowing Scout to be isolated so Eric can pick him off. Making sure that Viper isn't able to get into these fights as easily as he would like to. This was just so well played from OMG.
Really beautifully done. And now EDG are finding themselves in a position where they are fighting from their backs against the walls, right? They're down in items on pretty much every character. They now are against an Ocean Soul in these fights as well. Realistically, they're going to need a miracle to be able to finish this one out in a 2-0. And the question for OMG is, how clean can they be? Because they need to finish this off clean. Nobody gets caught out. No shenanigans. Last game, people were getting caught out all the time. So they need to cut that out and finish this one out in style.
It is going to be pretty difficult. This is where Aki now with the Talia takes on another facet of her kit, which is having that Weaver's Wall to be able to connect across the several lanes. So you do have New and Woomin who have gone towards these side lanes to start pushing them in, getting these towers, but at any point in time, Aki can come join them. So for the likes of Flandre and also for Scout who's got to go deal with these side lanes, they are never sure that it's an isolated Weaver.
Flandre just going to hold the wave away from the tower and try and clear things off there as the rest of EDG have to deal with the mid wave. In the meantime, though, Woomin gets to push on the top side completely uncontested. Aki can move up to help him as well. This should be a tier 2 taken, as I really don't think Scout can stick around here. If Aki finds the seismic shove, that would be one dead Orianna pretty much immediately. And this is the power of Baron, right? When you have a team that can be off in these side lanes, you're going to be able to get pressure onto the towers. Cold moving in as well. Wants to get shots in, but Flandre doing a really good job of knowing exactly how far forward he can step and what he can actually threaten. And I'm actually kind of impressed by EDG's defense against this Baron.
Yeah, you can see OMG are trying to make them dance. They're trying to pull members down towards the inhibitors so the Galio can take this top lane, but it will eventually crack. It was only a matter of time, really, and now this is where the pressure starts to ramp for EDG.
This is 4v3 in favor of EDG. Surely they should go in and fight that one. I guess it is a Talia, though, so they could always be reinforced.
Talia and Galio. The second you go in, Galio just creates so much space, and that's why you can't really. And plus, who have you really got? I mean, Flandre can try and go for the flash and then ult in or something along those lines to close the distance, but it's actually relatively hard unless you've fully committed as EDG to get any of these big ultimate cooldowns out.
Well, I was just complimenting EDG on defending. Eric goes in. Look at this onto Viper. 1v1 on the AD carries, and it's going to go the way of Eric. Beautifully done there. Gets out with his life because he's got a GA as well as Cold. Going to tank up the whole team. News there. Fighting against Flandre. Cold goes in, looks for the pulverize. Can't quite get the headbutt back into the team, and he answers with his own life. But ultimately, OMG are winning the fight. If it's long fights like this, they will take it all day long with an Ocean Soul. And that's 3 inhibs down. But they want more than just inhibs. They want the game. Onslaught of Shadows through the entire team here. It's a lot of damage, but no follow-up available. Scout can't kill these players. They're too damn tanky. He's going to be taunted up, knocked up, bashed around as the rest of OMG are looking to close things out. Nu jumps onto him. Goes for the Gore Drinker as well, just as a bit of insult to injury. Take down the final kill and take down the Nexus. OMG are pushing us to game 3.
And it's about damn time we saw some life out of OMG, because game 1 did not look good at all. But going back to simplicity, early ganking jungler for Aki, who can still farm but certainly put the pressure onto the map. Woomin onto something where he can also still play the map but have a bit of tankiness. This seems to be the winning formula now coming through for OMG, going again towards that more just team fight orientated style.